Celebrations marking the 21st anniversary of Hong Kong's return to Chinese rule. The July 1st march from Victoria Park to the government headquarters in Admiralty. And Thai rescuers have yet to reach 13 people who went missing in a cave complex over a week ago.
Hello and a very good evening. Celebrations and protests mark the 21st anniversary of Hong Kong's return to Chinese rule. The organiser of this year's July 1st rally says 50,000 people took to the streets, making their voices heard over various issues such as the co-location arrangement for the high-speed rail link and the national anthem law. Police say there were 9,800 participants at the peak of the march from Victoria Park to the central government offices in Admiralty. Winnie Wong reports.
End one-party rule, prevent the fall of Hong Kong. This was the theme of this year's July 1st rally. Participants this year had a number of different requests.
There are still a lot of political conflicts which is yet to be solved. For example, like the co-location arrangement and also for the national anthems law. For sure, I think Hong Kong people are worrying about whether one country, two systems still sustain.
Because Hong Kong doesn't have democracy, because Hong Kong doesn't have self-determination, and this is 21 years after the Communist Party took over. And 21 years later, we're still waiting for the same thing. In that time, my children have been born. I don't want my children to grow up without rights, the way you don't have your basic rights, and you don't have your basic rights, and you don't have your basic rights.
As usual, there was a creative use of props. This group of Cha Kuo Ling residents say they thought they were getting a waterfront park near their home, but then the government suddenly decided to rezone the land into a vocational school campus.
So we are very surprised and very outraged by how she betrayed the people. It's a lie that we wouldn't expect the policy would suddenly be changed overnight.
This football has the faces of various government officials and MTR Corporation executives plastered all over it. It represents how authorities kick responsibility away from themselves and pass it to each other instead.
Earlier, police asked protesters not to try to join the rally midway, otherwise it would be considered a threat to public order and police would take resolute action.
There were some clashes too, as people waving Chinese flags shouted at protesters walking by near the Canal Road flyover. In response to today's rally, the government reiterated that the chanting of slogans that disrespect one country and are sensational and misleading is not in line with Hong Kong's overall interests and would undermine the city's development. It also said the current term government has been proactively playing the role of facilitator and promoter to create more opportunities for Hong Kong, especially for youngsters. Winnie Wong, TVB News.
Chief Executive Carrie Lam said today her administration has one country at its core, so there is zero tolerance on acts against China's bottom line. Politics aside, there were joyous moments as different groups celebrated the 21st anniversary of Hong Kong's return to Chinese rule. Carrie Lam made her way to the flag-raising ceremony at Golden Bauhinia Square. There she was joined by 3 former chief executives. At 8 o'clock sharp, the SAR and national flags were raised amid the Chinese national anthem. Celebrations marking the 21st anniversary of Hong Kong's return to China continued indoors. At a reception, Carrie Lam reflected on her first year in office. She said she had a good start, which was strongly supported by the central government. Then this. She said during the past year, the SAR government upheld the principle of one country by maintaining an absolutely clear stance and showing no tolerance for any act that would hit the country's bottom line. That's as she called to maintain confidence in the city's rule of law and unique advantages, while taking advantages of two systems through participating in the Belt and Road Initiative and the Greater Bay Area project. The CE also made time for reporters today. She spoke at length on the condition that no recordings be made. She refused to comment on her officials based on their popularity ratings and noted good civil service morale. Relations, she said, also improved between the executive and legislative branches as she made more trips to LegCo to answer questions from legislators. Though there has to be mutual trust between the people and government before they can embark on Basic Law Article 23 legislative work. Director of Beijing's liaison office in Hong Kong, Wang Zhimin, sang praises for Carrie Lam at a separate public event. It's one of many celebratory events held around town, which also involved over 400 dancing lions and dragons. Meanwhile, some protesters were closely watched by police as they got close to the Convention and Exhibition Centre, where the official reception took place this morning. Around a dozen people, including former lawmaker Leung Kwok-hong, carried a mock coffin through the streets of Wan Chai. They chanted slogans of an end to one-party rule and called for the release of jailed political activists, as well as Liu Xiang, the widow of the late Nobel Peace Laureate Liu Xiaobo. Police tried but failed to stop them from setting fire to their petition letter.
Meanwhile, Chief Executive Carrie Lam says it's impractical for the government to promise a magic solution to the city's soaring property prices. Still, Finance Chief Paul Chan is confident that the newly proposed vacancy tax can help boost housing supply. Christy Leung has more.
Some critics say developers may try to get around the tax on vacant properties by slowing down the construction progress of housing projects. Some worry that may put further pressure on housing supply, but Financial Secretary Paul Chan dismissed such fears while talking to TVB News.
When we sell the land to them, within a specified period, they have to finish the completion, finish the construction of the units. And thereafter, within 1 year, they need to have this completely sold or leased out for over 6 months.
Chan believes any loopholes can be plugged during the legislative process. Still, it remains unclear when the government will table the bill at the legislature. Although there have been calls for a relaxation in mortgage rates, Chan says the government will not consider this given property prices are already so high. Still, Chief Executive Carrie Lam says it's impractical for the government to promise a curb on property prices. That's when she spoke to the media after a reception to celebrate the anniversary of the handover, adding it is extremely difficult to make such a pledge given the city's free economy. Christy Leung, TVB News.
Thai Navy divers continue to push through the muck of a flooded cave in their desperate search for 12 boys and their football coach, who have been trapped deep inside since last Saturday. But the elite SEAL unit is having trouble moving past muddy waters in a kilometre-long chamber to where the missing may be sheltering. Jeff Tang reports.
The clock is ticking and rescuers are becoming increasingly desperate to find the junior football team trapped inside a cave complex. 12 boys aged between 11 and 16 and their 25-year-old assistant coach entered the sprawling Tam Luang Nang Non cave in the northern province of Chiang Rai after a game on June 23rd. Aside from bicycles and football boots left near the cave's entrance, as well as some handprints on the walls of the cave, there have been no traces of the 13 missing people. The team announced on social media that its members had only penetrated about 200 meters of the crucial chamber. That's about as far in as they had made almost a week earlier, before being forced to retreat by rising waters. Today, a break in the constant rain has raised hopes that the muddy water could recede and allow divers to move forward. Efforts at pumping water out of the flooded cave have also been slow. So authorities are turning their focus to finding shafts on the mountainside that might serve as a backdoor to the blocked-off areas where the missing are believed to be sheltered. Medical teams are also on the scene, undertaking drills to treat any survivors and airlift them to hospital from a makeshift helipad. The Thais have received a helping hand from international cave rescue experts, including teams from China, Australia, the United States and Britain. Jeff Tang, TVB News.
Hundreds of thousands marched in cities across the United States to demand the Trump administration reverse an immigration crackdown that has seen parents separated from their children at the Mexico border. Organisers hope the mass protest will make the administration rethink its tough stance and make it more welcoming of foreigners. In major cities and tiny towns, hundreds of thousands of marchers gathered across America, moved by accounts of children separated from their parents at the US-Mexico border. All of them were united in expressing their disgust against the Trump administration's harsh immigration policies. Protesters flocked to more than 700 marches from immigrant-friendly cities like New York and Los Angeles to more conservative parts of the country like Wyoming. In the capital, Washington, D.C., tens of thousands marched to Lafayette Park across from the White House in what was expected to be the largest protest of the day. People there spoke about why it was so important to rally and send the message that President Trump's immigration policies are cruel and go against everything that America stands for.
Creating concentration camps, putting babies into cages is disgusting, is a step towards another step towards genocide. It's absolutely frightening, and it's everything else that's happening as well. It's the fact that all of these policies come from bigotry.
Others took aim specifically at senior Trump advisor Stephen Miller, seen as one of the main proponents of the administration's tough stance towards migrants.
So we want to make Stephen Miller, who is the architect of the family separation program, to feel uncomfortable in our city. We don't want him here.
The president took to Twitter amid the protests, first to show his support for immigration and customs enforcement, as some Democrats call for major changes to the agency. Later, Trump tweeted that he never pushed House Republicans to vote for immigration overhaul measures that failed last week, contradicting a post 3 days ago in which he urged GOP members to pass them. Meanwhile, Mexicans vote for a new president today in an election tipped to hand power to an anti-establishment outsider. Elections are also being held for other races, including local assemblies and mayors of towns and cities. Former Mexico City Mayor Andrés Manuel López Obrador has led opinion polls throughout the presidential campaign and could be the first leftist to take the presidency in decades. Runner-up in the 2012 and 2006 elections, López Obrador pitches himself as the only man capable of shaping the country, which has been worn down by persistent graft, soaring crime levels and years of subpar economic growth. More than 100 candidates have been killed since campaigning began, with many falling foul of the country's notorious and brutal drug cartels.
A heat wave continues to sweep across Britain, with temperatures exceeding 30 degrees Celsius in parts of the country. The sweltering heat has even forced Northern Ireland authorities to impose the first hosepipe ban in 23 years amid water shortages, but Londoners flocked to the city's parks to take advantage of some rare sunshine.
We've had a good 4 hours in the park of sunbathing, catching up with friends, picnics.
The UK's National Weather Service, the Met Office, said the hot, dry and sunny weather would continue in the vast majority of the country until early July. In Northern Ireland, officials said a hosepipe ban was implemented because recent demand for water surged by 30%. This means customers can't use their hosepipes for domestic purposes, such as cleaning the car or watering the garden.
And still ahead on the news tonight. Robbers escape with more than $20 million worth of goods from a Tsim Sha Tsui jewellery shop. Welcome back to TVB News. Police are hunting for 3 robbers who took away more than $23 million worth of luxury watches and jewellery from a shop in Tsim Sha Tsui this morning. Kena Chu has more.
Another jewellery shop in Tsim Sha Tsui has been robbed, this time on Hai Phong Road. Glass display cases were smashed and the shop lost around $23.5 million worth of goods. This staff member of a nearby cosmetics shop said he saw 3 men masked and dressed in black escape into an alley.
One of them with holding a hammer, one with a knife, and one with an extendable baton. The one who holding a hammer will be damage the display and take away 34 watches and 39 pieces of the bracelets. After they get the loot, they escape through the getaway car.
Police are now looking for 3 men, a South Asian and 2 Chinese who spoke fluent Cantonese. One of them slapped a male shopkeeper who was on his mobile phone. Police later found a burnt vehicle at Maipo Sanchun in Santin in the New Territories. The vehicle was reported missing back in March and may be linked to the case.
After recent robbery cases in Tsim Sha Tsui, police said they've deployed more plainclothes officers around town to help tackle crime. Kana Chu, TVB News.
Customs officers have made their largest haul of cocaine in 5 years, with an estimated street value of around $80 million. These blocks contain 79 kilos of suspected cocaine and 1 kilo of suspected crystal meth, or ice. The drugs were seized from a residential unit in Chunmun last night during an anti-drug operation. A 52-year-old man was arrested on the spot on suspicion of possessing dangerous drugs.
More than 280 people made it to this year's honours list in recognition of their contributions to Hong Kong. Pinky Wong reveals who they are.
The suspense is over. These 4 will be awarded the Grand Bohemian Medal, the city's highest honour. Judge Robert Tang, a permanent judge of the Court of Final Appeal, honoured for his distinguished service in the judiciary which he served for more than 14 years. The government praised entrepreneur Robin Chan, father of Executive Council convener Bernard Chen, for his contributions to the insurance industry and charity work. Also on the list, renowned endocrinologist Rosie Young, whose work improved treatments for liver disease, and rural leader Chung Hock Ming, who served on the Executive Council and as a Legislative Council member. 10 people have been awarded the Gold Bohemian Star, including microbiologist Yun Kwok Yong, Vice President of the Court of Appeal Michael Lin, and Ocean Park Chairman Leo Kong. 20 others are on the Silver Bohemian Star list, such as Federation of Hong Kong Industries Chairman Jimmy Kwok, lawmaker Ann Chang, and former Water Supplies Department Chief Enoch Lam. 40 people, including actors Law Ka-ying and Wai Ying-hong, will get the Bronze Bohemian Star. So will athlete Yu Chui-yi, who won several Paralympic gold medals.
I hope I can be the role model for the disabled person in Hong Kong, and I can encourage them to participate more in sports.
The award presentation ceremony will be held on October 27th. Pinky Wong, TVB News.
A simplified sales tax refund system for foreign visitors took effect in Japan today. They're now exempt from the 8% tax if they make purchases totaling at least 5,000 yen, regardless of product categories. Previously, they were reimbursed if their purchases from either of 2 categories were worth 5,000 yen or more. One category was general products such as electric appliances and clothing, the other, consumable goods like food and cosmetics. Visitors complained that the classifications were too hard to understand. And that's the news.
Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.